Welcome to Computer Talk's Pharmacy Forward video series. In this episode, we hear from our regular contributor, Tim Kosty, about his article on the California Consumer Privacy Act.
And why don't we start with you giving us an overview of this act, and then we'll go into some of the implications for pharmacy and the technology.
All right, thanks, Maggie. Thanks for having me on the program today. And it's an interesting topic. You know, the California legislature decided a couple years ago that technology was outpacing consumers' privacy rights. And so they jumped into that void and wrote legislation that would provide additional protections for consumers and filled that void with a number of new requirements for companies, including companies that are over 25 million in sales, generate their revenue 50% or greater percent of the revenue by selling personal information of consumers, or they're managing consumer information for over 50,000 people. So those are the companies that are obligated to comply with the law, and obviously have a big presence in California, because California can't regulate us here in Pennsylvania, but companies doing business in California are being regulated. Are we going to have separate compliance for each state and their state laws and how they want things done? Or do we look across all of our states and say, what state has the most stringent requirements? And if we have everyone comply with those requirements, then we're okay. And so you have a management decision there. So depending on how you want to go, if you just want a California only policy, then you implement it that way. Consumers, if you're a grocery store chain and you have pharmacies, you have a consumer loyalty program, they're mining data by combining your prescription purchasing habits, your OTC products, with what you're buying in the grocery store. And so they get a good profile for you. And if you think about the pharmacy, most of the pharmacy data is protected under HIPAA as a healthcare operation. So there's always protection for that healthcare information. I think the issue is when you merge it together with other sources of data, you get more of a demographic or a psychographic profile of the consumer, and that obviously gives companies an opportunity to market to them and identify what their needs are. And it's amazing when you shop at a big box retailer or a membership card program, when you get their coupons in the mail. Gosh, I bought those in the past, and now they want me to come in and buy them again. How did that happen, right?
They really seem to know me well.
Yes, they do.
When you talk about business compliance, what are the steps that you take when you have an act like this that you then have to address? And I guess from a technology side, so from your data management, data security.
So from a technology perspective, a lot of this law requires that you're able to track people that opt out. You're able to provide information to people that request it. Within 45 days, the company has to provide you, on request, the information on what your information that was shared and who was shared to. Over in Europe, there was a similar type of law that was passed. And I was actually on a website in the UK that prompted me to opt out or opt in. So I wanted to opt out and asked the site, just are you sharing my data with? So they were selling it to 500 different companies that are using the data in some way to try to identify ways to market services and products to. Until I did a lot of research for this article, I had no idea how many people had access to my information and the ways they use it to market to you. For example, one interesting one is across technology platforms. And have you ever noticed that if you're browsing the web for a certain item and you're looking at websites and then all of a sudden they start popping up on your telephone, or vice versa? And it's like, wait a minute, I wasn't on my phone when I was looking for this information, but now they know that I was, and they're marketing on my phone when I'm accessing that technology. So the cross technology, it's just incredible how quickly, the data integration, the sourcing of information from different providers that may not be obligated under this law, that they're able to merge that data and identify a more complete consumer profile.
Following up on that, the two examples you gave in the article, the one in particular was the family tree DNA and the FBI using it.
23andMe has millions of people that have sent in samples of DNA, and the company is now marketing to pharmaceutical manufacturers that are attempting to solve orphan diseases, other components of the healthcare where they need to identify people that are similar so they can perhaps do some testing and help create therapeutic cures for these disease states. And so if you would ask the average consumer, can you use my information to help better mankind, find better therapies that help people? I think most people would say absolutely. It's a challenging thing from a regulatory perspective because I'm convinced that technology is always going to outpace regulation. And technology is moving forward. There's things that will be created in the next few years that no one's even dreamed of today, but the knowledge base is growing exponentially. So these opportunities, it's hard to regulate them, and we depend upon companies to do their own self-regulation also. But if there's like, no, I don't want my information used that way, then we probably don't do that. And I think one thing that we should see from companies in the future is asking for permission instead of forgiveness.
I do wonder, I guess, with the California Act, are there other states who are looking to develop similar regulations?
Well, I think the issue is in all states, it's around the world, patient privacy, consumer protection. I think other states will look to California to see how that law has impacted businesses, impacted consumers. Was it favorable or not? And did it really change behaviors is my question. Because if convenience trumps all, then you can have all the regulations in the world, but if consumers don't take advantage of those opportunities to opt out, then legislation is really having no impact on society. So I guess I would challenge the viewers to, next time you have an option, opt out of something and see what criteria is available for you to select what information is shared and what's not shared, and look at that occasionally to see what the options are and how our company's changing that.
And I guess for the technology, for the vendors, as they develop new products and solutions around interacting with customers and consumers in this way.
Well, I look at it, consumer engagement. Companies to interact with consumers, whether it's email, voicemail, text messages. My preference is, as a consumer, ask me how I want to be interacted with, and I'll tell you, and then send me information through that. And so I think those consumer engagement strategies, ask consumers, allow them to opt into the method they want to be contacted, and have the system's capabilities to track these different exceptions. And I think that's real key for the technology companies is, conceptually, it's very easy to say, well, we're going to track and opt people out. But in the systems that are designed, you have to have a feature to control it, to track different information. Like, if you ask in California for a copy of your privacy information for the last year, well, then you have to send it out within 45 days. But also the consumer can only ask once a year. So you would have to track all those kind of parameters in that system and be able to report on it in case you got audited, or certainly compliance within the company is going to want to audit to make sure that when we get these requests, we're able to demonstrate that we're complying with the law and have documentation to that.
So anything else that you think we should know about?
Well, I think the main thing people should keep in mind is be a little bit more aware of when you're clicking yes to all these different requests. So, I think if we're going to protect ourselves, we've got to be cognizant of it. And certainly with the security of different websites, now with all the phishing attempts and trying to get people's credentials, keep that in mind as you look at different sites and request information, that who could have access to it and do you really want them to? And then, make an informed decision.